Your kayak will utilize one of two methods for attaching the rudder. One option uses a molded insert that will allow you to drop the rudder pin right into the kayak. To use this method, turn the rudder so the flat part of the rudder pin faces the bow of the kayak. Insert the rudder pin into the hole, then rotate 180 degrees to lock in place. If your kayak has two screws on the stern, you will use the mounting block option. This is the hardware and tools you will need. First, remove the filler screws. Put the lock washer on the cap head screw, then drop the screw into the block. Repeat for the bottom screw. Make sure you place the rudder block so that the rudder stop is at the top. Use the hex key to tighten the both screws. Put the rudder into the rest position. Put the pin into the hole at the top of the block. Drop the rudder into place. Insert the split ring into the hole at the bottom of the rudder pin. Insert one end of the bungee into the rear hole of the deck fitting. Tie an overhand knot in one end. Stretch the bungee to make a loop so that you can insert the other end of the bungee. Lock the rudder into place, set tension, then tie an overhand knot on the other end of the bungee. If your boat has a transverse handle at the rear, remove the screws, locate the handle with the attached bungee, install the handle, loop the bungee over the rudder to hold it in place. Locate the recess on the right side of the kayak. Remove the screws. Gather one deck fitting for each recess. Place the screw through the deck fitting and screw into the hole. Make sure openings on the deck fitting are parallel to the water line of the boat. Feed the lift line from the left side of the rudder through the top of the deck fitting. Feed the lift line from the right side of the rudder through the bottom of the deck fitting. Loosen the front deck fitting. Make a U shape with the rudder control bungee. Place the bungee behind the deck fitting so it wraps around. Tighten the deck fitting. Make sure the rudder control moves freely. Feed the lift line through the rudder controls. With the rudder in the resting position, place the top rudder control 3.5 inches from the deck fitting. Tie an overhand knot to keep this fitting in place. Pull the bottom control to the rear to create tension in the system. Tie an overhand knot in the bottom line. Test the rudder function. If the system is too loose, tighten by moving the knots to the rear of the boat and retest. Locate and remove the screws that secure the foot brace. Some boats have a nut and washer inside the boat. Use a 3/8 inch wrench to loosen these. Remove the original foot braces. Insert the screws back into the holes on the foot brace. Add a rubber washer between the foot brace and boat. Line up the screw holes. Partially tighten each screw. Once both screws are started, you can tighten the foot brace fully. Make sure the rudder cables are not trapped between the boat and the foot brace when tightened. Remove the cap and cover from the end of the cable. Straighten the end of the cable. Insert the cable into the poly tube behind the foot brace. Feed the cable to the rear of the boat. When the cable exits the rear of the boat, pull out a few inches. Place the cover on the cable. Install the small flat washer on the cable. Tie 2 overhand knots at the end of the cable. Place cap on cover. Place the cable in the middle slot and slide to keep it in place. Pull the slack forward from the rear of the boat. It is important to make sure the stern end of the cable remains locked into the rudder. Pull the rudder rope through the top of the foot brace. Hold the foot brace at a 90-degree angle. Pull the cable down the back of the foot brace. Pull the slack from the free end of the cable at the rear of the foot brace rail. Pull the gray knob towards the center of the boat and rotate a quarter turn to lock it into place. Measure the cable 5 inches from the end of the foot brace. Cut the excess cable. Tie an overhand knot in the end of the cable. You can adjust the responsiveness of the rudder by moving the cable position on the rudder wing. Move the cable to the outer slot to make the rudder more responsive. Move the cable to the inner slot to make the rudder less responsive.